Okay, Boker Tov. Today's stuff is Chavtet, the last stop, 29, the last stop in the third parak. With this, we wrap up, well, the first two parakim, which were the whole focus on and being tamei and entering into the Beis Hamikdash, which we've discussed a few times. What I think it's doing this Masechet, and this parak I think is about the korban. And I think it is about the korban that somebody brings when they make an oath, and then they violate it to shogeg, either in the future or in the past. But what we've also seen so far is that it really lays down the basic parameters about what types of oaths are binding. The difference between a shvuah and a neder, shvuah chalal shvuah, mushba v'omeid, ain't shvuah chalal shvuah, I should say mushba v'omeid, if you try to take a shvuah to be mevatel as ha-mitzvah. So it basically, laid down some of the foundational aspects in the context of discussing the korban. After this parak, we're really going to focus on what Shevuot is doing in Seder Nezikin, which is the use of oaths within the context of court deliberations, and cases and, two litigants and so on, where it won't all be about the idea of how an oath when does it binding an oath on top of another oath and those types of questions, but more about there will be elements of that, but there's also when is one side entitled to impose an oath on another? What if somebody doesn't take the oath? Do they have to pay? Its use as a tool within the context of the courts. That'll be starting tomorrow. But anyway, today we wrap up this discussion of Shevuot and what, different types of Shevuot, and are they sort of valid? Do you bring a korban? Are they meaningful? And so on. So let's take a look now at the Mishnah on Chavtet Amud Aleph. Ezi Yishuas Shav. So we discussed a Shvuas Bitoy, which is certainly it's future oriented, and then if you violated it b'shogeg, you bring a korban. If you violated it b'mezid, you get lashes. We discussed a past oriented shvuah, which if you do it b'mezid, it's a shvuah sheker. If you violate a past oriented shvuah b'shogeg, and we discussed what would constitute a shogeg, then that's the debate of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael. If you bring a korban for something that's past oriented, so that was a shvuas bitoy and a shvuas sheker. So the one thing we haven't discussed is a shvuas shav. No, that's lashakir. Yes, this was quoted earlier. Okay, lo tisat shem Hashem elokecha l'shav. Do not take the Lord's name in vain. Okay, so what is to take in vain as opposed to be false? Okay, so let's take a look. What is a shvuas shav? A shvuah taken in vain. Nishba l'shanot et hayadua. You take an oath to claim something is different when it's well known to be different than what is well known to be. Okay.
Did you do well known or just
known? Actually, it's a good point. We'll see in the Gemara how known it has to be. Okay. You have a pillar of stone and you take an oath that it's gold. So you might have said that it was sheker. But the point is that something that is transparently false, now we'll go with transparently false, we'll modify that when we get to the Gemara, then it's just in vain. You're not fooling anybody. So is a lie? Yeah, but there's some sense of a lie is a lie that actually, works as a lie. Okay, when it doesn't work as a lie, it's just in vain. About a man that's a woman, a woman that's a man. Okay, nishpa, right? Nishpa al davar, right? This was obviously a case where they had very virtually gender binary. I mean, if you had somebody that was intersex and an androgynous, that would not be necessarily. Anyway, al davar she efshalo. Now, before we go on, what's missing from this is something that is transparently true, which gets said elsewhere, right? But if you take an oath that 2 + 2 is 5, that's a shvuas shav. It's not sheker. You're not fooling anybody. If you take an oath that 2 + 2 is 4, it's also a shvuas shav because it's completely obvious and the shvuah serves no purpose. Okay, so it's interesting that's not mentioned in the Mishnah, but that is assumed elsewhere that that's included in shvuas shav.
So it doesn't mean something that but there's different gradations. There's something that's patently obvious to everyone else.
Right, we're going to get to we're going to get to that. We'll get to how obvious it has to be. Okay, now, if you swear about something that was impossible, for example, what would be a case of impossible?
Is low meaning to you or low is meaning
let's
general?
Take a look. Well, the case is you make a claim about something that happened to you and it's impossible. So that's what the relevance of the low there is. I take an oath if I haven't seen a camel flying in the sky. So obviously you didn't. So now the question is, but what exactly was your oath? It sounds like you're making it conditional on something. Why is it a shvuas shek? Why is it a shvuas shav? So we'll figure that out in the Gemara. Okay, but the point is, it has something to do with something that's obviously impossible. I did not see a snake as big and as thick as the beam used in the olive press. I don't know if you've ever seen those beams, but they're like enormous. Okay, so Amar la'edim. Now we'll discuss this in the Gemara, because even if we assume that it wasn't possible, what's the Shevuot part of this thing that you said? Now Amar la'edim bo v'hi iduni. You say to witnesses, this is going to be a lead into the next parak, which is going to be Shevuot Sa'edus, using a Shevuot as a means of getting somebody to come testify for you. Okay, so you say to witnesses, come and testify for me. Shevuot shelo na'idchan, they take an oath. No, we won't testify for you. Now, that's different than a Shevuot that we don't know the testimony. That's Shevuot Sa'edus, denying their knowledge of the facts. Okay, but this is a Shevuot that they know it, and they won't actually come and testify. So that actually is a shvua levatel et mitzvah. Okay, they have an obligation to come and testify. They're acknowledging that they know the facts, and they're swearing they're not. That's a shvua levatel et mitzvah. Okay, or just more directly, nishba levatel et mitzvah. Somebody takes an oath not to do a mitzvah. Shelo lasu tzukah v'shelo lito lulav v'shelo laniach tefillin. Okay, all those cases of straight, clear ritual mitzvot. That's
sukkah means it doesn't say shelo esha.
Right. So that's actually, so Michael makes an interesting point, which the Gemara does not discuss, but some of the Achronim do. Why does it say shelo laso sukkah? You don't have an obligation to do a sukkah. It leads to the Netziv developing the whole idea that is asiyat sukkah, the hechsher mitzvah, the whole approach of the Netziv. Hechsher mitzvah hakasu b'Torah, because the Torah says chag hasukos taselecha, from which we learn that there's an idea to make a sukkah, even though technically you don't have to, right? If you grew up in a family, whatever, the dad made the sukkah, everybody else dwelled in it, right? The kids, even if they were bar mitzvah, maybe they helped the dad, maybe they did it, they were off playing football or TV or whatever they were doing, right? So you still fulfill your mitzvah if you don't make a sukkah, but nevertheless, does the fact that it's unnecessary that somebody make a sukkah.
Somebody has to
actually, it's interesting. You don't even need a Jew to make a sukkah. But anyway, and that it's mentioned in the Torah, does that give it somehow some weight as at least a kiyum mitzvah? But nevertheless, it is interesting. Most Rishonim assume, so what, if you take an oath not to do a kiyum mitzvah, is that nishba levatel as a mitzvah, right? Presumably not, if you don't have to do it. But anyway, but some Rishonim basically assume it's lav dafka. It really means shalom leishev the sukkah. But it's a good that you picked it up. Okay? Shalom litolu, shalom laniach tefillin, zoe yishua shav. So a shvuah to negate a mitzvah serves no purpose, and therefore, because it's not binding. And zoe yishua shav shechayav al stono makos. If you willfully do this, you get lashes. Patur. But if you do it in error or in negligence or whatever, then unawares, then you are exempt. Again, it's the only thing that you bring a korban for is a shvuas bitoy in the future, possibly in the past, but not a shvuas shav. Now, what is missing from this list is a shvua. All of these cases, you're basically negating something, negating a thing that's obviously true, negating an obligation to do a mitzvah. What if you are being redundant, right? So I gave you the example about you're being obvious when you say you swear that 2 + 2 is 4. Okay, that's assumed to be a shvua, but it's not mentioned in the Mishnah. How about if you're being redundant in another realm? You take a shvua to do a mitzvah, a shvua that you will put on tefillin today, right? Or a shvua to do something that you're already mush baviyom made. You take a shvua to eat a loaf of bread, and you take another shvua to eat a loaf of bread, right? So we said that second shvua isn't binding, although we sort of said it was hovering in case you got rid of the first one, right? But if there's cases where you can't get rid of the first one, it's a shvua, something that you take a shvua to, I don't know, not eat on Yom Kippur. You take a shvua to not eat treifas or whatever, all those cases. So do we say the fact that it's redundant makes it a shvua shav or not? Okay, that is not explored in the Mishnah, but it's interesting because it doesn't where cases that came up in the past. So you understand the Mishnah is talking about cases where whether you're making a factual claim or an obligation claim, you're negating something that is obviously true or that you're obviously obligated in, and it calls that a shvuas shav. So there's elements of sheker, if you think about it, in the shvuas shav. What about when there's no elements of sheker? When it's, but it's patently true, or it's reinforcing an obligation, that is not clear from this Mishnah. So just flagging that. Now, let's finish the Mishnah.
Like we had Nidri Zeruzin, which were...
That's true. I mean, that's there could be cases like that. That would be true, but that would be a different consideration. Okay. Now, this is a cute case in the Mishnah. We had an earlier case that you're redundant. That the second one isn't binding because it's mush baviyom made, right? It's shvua chal shvua, ain't shvua chal shvua. And again, the sense is that would not be a shvua shav. Okay, let's say here you took your second oath was to not eat it. So therefore, okay, now that's where the second one is the shvua levatel es ha-mitzvah, because you're obligated to eat it based on your first shvua.
Well, why can't you just say he just went, if it took the gibor, would you say he just retracted? And
If that were the case, maybe, but that's not the case. Harishona shvuas bitoy. So the first one is a shvuas bitoy, that you're obligating yourself to do something in the future. Vashniya shvuas shav. And the second one, since you're negating the obligation of the shvuas bitoy, that's a shvuas shav. Now achala, if you ate it, so avar al shvuas shav, then you fulfilled your shvuas bitoy. You took a shvua to eat it, but you transgressed your second shvua where you said you wouldn't eat it. Lo achala, if you didn't eat it, so over al shvuas bitoy, you transgressed your shvuas bitoy because you said you would eat it. Now, the sense of the Mishnah is you did not transgress your shvuas shav because you did exactly what your second shvua said you would do, which is not eat it. But we'll see about that in the Gemara. Okay, we'll deal with this in the Gemara. Tosas, by the way, asks an interesting question for those who are paying attention. Michael, I was waiting for you to ask this question, which is, if we said before, ochlena means the whole thing, so then the second one really doesn't negate the first one. The first one is you will eat this kikar, which you would fulfill with a kazayas, and then you won't eat it, means you won't eat the whole thing. So you can fulfill both shvuas, both of the oaths. You eat a kazayas and you don't eat the whole thing. So anyway, Tosfos raises that question. He doesn't really have a good answer. He says maybe if you say I will eat it, it means I'll eat the whole thing. If you say I won't eat it, then it maybe means I won't even eat any part of it, which you could sort of hear. But anyway, let's take a look at the Gemara.
So they're saying that both of these take effect.
Well, that's what it sounds like in the Mishnah, that they both take effect and you're sort of stuck.
Yeah.
Either one you do, you negate the other one. That's what the simple Mishnah sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, but we'll see about that in the Gemara.
So when you say achla avar Shevuot shav, but isn't it Shevuot shav the moment you made it?
That's exactly what the Gemara is going to ask. It's going to be that's related to Charlie's question. We'll see that when we get to it in the Gemara. Okay, Amar Ula. So now we're going to deal with the case of something that is patently false. It's a shvuas shav. Hu shenikar legimel bnei adam. It doesn't have to be transparently false to everybody. Even if only 3 people know that this pillar is made out of stone, and everybody else thinks it's gold because it has a nice. Everybody. What's the case? Everybody. I take an oath that it is gold. It looks gold because let's say it's got some nice, gold plate, or not even. Then you could argue that it is gold.
Painted.
It's painted with a gold color. So all you guys, you're so ignorant. You all think it's gold. I know better. 3 people know that it's really stone, but most people and most people are uncertain. Okay, and I take an oath that it's made out of gold. Now I got to tell you, I would think that's a shvuas sheker. I fooled all of you. Most people are uncertain, right? I'm lying. Okay, there are 3 people. The guys who built it, they lived 3 states over. They happen to know that it was really made out of stone. Why is it not a shvuas sheker?
And what you swore the what?
I swore it's made out of stone.
Right.
It looks like it might be gold. You people aren't certain. You don't know any better. I swear to you it's made out of gold. I'm lying. I'm fooling all of you. I could be fooling 1,000 people with my shvua. They take my word for it because they don't know any better. But because 3 people somewhere happen to know that it's made out of stone, it's considered a shvuas shav, not a shvuas sheker. I really don't understand this. Obviously it's based on the Gemara's assumption that something known by 3 people is public and eventually people find out about it. But you would think that it would have to be counterbalanced. I don't know. It's like if most people are under a different impression, or that we assume that because the facts are theoretically accessible and available, that makes it shav and not sheker. I mean, that makes it shav and not sheker. That's pretty funny. Okay, especially now living in the era of alternative facts and whatnot. The fact that certain facts are discoverable doesn't really mean that necessarily people believe them. And you say false things with enough conviction, people believe you. So really, it's not sheker. It's only shav because people in theory could get to the bottom of it. That seems just to me very, very strange.
Especially since it didn't say who these people are. Could be me, Medina Taya.
Right. But even if we grant that, it means, 3 people in the town. Okay. But is the assumption that eventually people will realize that I was lying? Really? A lot of lies are like that. I pull the wool over your eyes for a period of time, and then eventually you realize I'm lying, I don't know. It's very strange. Okay. Okay. Nishba. What about if it's the case that it was the 3 people? It's even more private. 3 people in my family saw that I had eggs for breakfast, and I take an oath to you guys that I didn't have eggs for breakfast. Is that, I would assume that's sheker, not shove, right?
Yeah.
Just because, so, okay, I don't know, maybe because my family keeps things private. I don't know, 3 people at the diner saw that I had eggs for breakfast, okay? And then I come to all of you and I swear to you I did it. What, that's a shove? It's not a sheker because 3 people know about it? I don't get it. I have to assume that this is, that the Gimel B'nai Adam is more contextual, you know, but I don't, I
Meaning
really
what?
know.
Meaning it just
Means in a case in where it really will come to light very readily, you know, or something of that nature. That's how I would like to read it. All right. You swear about something that's impossible. Like you say, if I do not see a camel flying. Okay, when camels fly.
or when horses fly.
When horses fly, when donkeys fly. Now, sure, why is this a shove? What exactly is the shur you took? So the Gemara says like this. So a shur that I saw a camel, you didn't say. Meaning that would be a shove. If I got up and I said a shur that I saw a camel flying, okay, so that's patently false, and that would be a simple example of a shove. All right, but that wasn't the case. The way it was framed in the Mishnah was a shur that I didn't see. So what's the problem? Okay, unless again what you say, what's absent in the Mishnah is that if you say something that's patently true, it also is a shur shav. Again, that's not in the Mishnah. But then you could have said, if a guy took a shur that I didn't see a camel flying in the air, okay, that's patently true. Maybe that's another example of a shur shav. But again, the Mishnah is not dealing with it. The Mishnah is dealing with patently false. So the Gemara's got a problem. What's patently false about what he said? So let's take a look. Shur shara'iti lo kamar. Mayim lo ra'iti. What does it mean a shur I didn't see? Abai Amar, Tani Shua Shura'iti. Fine, yeah, switch the gears. It really means the guy took a note that I did see, so it's patently false. Rava Amar, now Rava says, but Omer, you say, Ye'asu Koper Sheba'olam Alai, Bishvua is what it means. It says that in another Gemara. All the fruit of the world will be forbidden to me by an oath. Im lo ra'iti gamo parech ba'avir. If I did not see a camel flying. Okay, now why is that a shua shav? So you didn't see a camel flying. So all the fruit is forbidden. Right. So that's a shvur. What's shvur's shav about that? So Tosfos says it's really unclear in the Gemara. So Tosfos says it's a shvur's shav. Forget the condition of a camel flying. That really isn't the point. The point is if a person takes an oath that I won't eat all fruit in the world forever, right. It's an oath that cannot be fulfilled. Right. Okay, it's like an oath that I'll never sleep. Okay, where the Gemara says you give him lashes immediately for shvur's shav and he's allowed to sleep immediately. It's taking an oath about so the ef shar impossible doesn't mean the camel flying is impossible. It means what's impossible. I know, so that's like bizarre. The case of the camel flying is really completely trivial in the Mishnah and incidental. The real point is a shvur to do something that's something impossible, like to never eat any fruit in the world. Okay, I mean it's possible.
I'll tell that to my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible not to eat any fruit.
Fruit also in the Mishnah probably also means grains. So therefore, like it also means. I mean, again, those are theoretically possible, but it's seen as practically possible. Okay, so first of all, that's a very bad read of the Mishnah. The Mishnah emphasizes a flying camel, and according to this, it's because you took a shvur not to eat food. Okay, or whatever. So anyway, that's a very bad read. What I would still like to explore is what if you again swear about something that's patently true. Okay, if the shvur that I did not see, why isn't that a shvur shav? Because it's patently true. So as opposed to something that's patently false. Anyway, that seems to be from the Gemara discussion in the Gemara not included in shvur shav. One other point. Tosfos asks an interesting question. Would I, if I take an oath that I won't eat all food, we say that the shvur is something that's impossible and it doesn't take effect and it's immediately a shvur shav. What if I do it in a neder formulation? Let's say I say, neder, all food in the world is forbidden to me. So the effect of that is to force me to do something impossible. Okay? But the actual, it's not directly, it's sort of like a neder levatel a mitzvah, a neder that I make sukkahs forbidden to me, since the effect undermines a mitzvah, but it doesn't directly go against my obligation, it takes effect. So when I say I won't eat any food in the world and I take a shvua, so that directly contradicts, my what I'm able to do, and it relates to me and what I'm requiring myself to do. So there's like a direct contradiction. So we say it doesn't take effect, it's a shvur shav. But if I make all the food forbidden to me, okay, it's only indirectly creating an impossible situation for me. It's not directly going against my abilities. I'm not talking about my abilities. I'm talking about the food. So Tosfos actually has two opinions whether such a neder takes effect. Okay, It's very interesting. One opinion, he says it would for the reasons I just said. And the other, we would say no. A neder whose effect is that it's unable to be fulfilled, humanly unable to be fulfilled, right, is not a valid neder. And then he makes an interesting point. Do I do anything wrong by taking a neder? Is there a concept of neder shav? Okay, let's say that's true, that such a neder about all food is meaningless, and therefore it doesn't take effect. Have I done anything wrong by saying that? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Is there a concept of neder shav?
We don't see it, but I would think yes.
What? Okay, so first of all, the Torah never says don't take a neder shav. Right, and also, but it also gets to and the reason I bring this out is it gets to the nature of the verse. The verse is Lo tisat Shem Shemelach l'shav. The problem, again, that going back to the beginning of the paragraph that I've been reiterating, is that not just that a Shevuot is about actions, but a Shevuot ultimately is about God's name. A Shevuot is about calling upon God to testify that what you are saying is true, or you're going to sort of have to answer to God, if you do not live up to what you are taking an oath about. So whether you explicitly say God's name or not, it's always there in the background. Okay, so therefore, taking a Shevuot shav is taking God's name in vain. Now that raises an interesting question. Let's say somebody doesn't mention God's name and takes a Shevuot shav, right? Are they translating lo tisat Shem Shemelach l'shav because it's God's name is implicit? Okay, that's an interesting question. But at the end of the day, the problem with a Shevuot shav is that it is an invoking directly or by implication of God's name. Okay, whereas a neder, you just did something foolish. You took a neder that didn't take effect. Okay, fine, whatever. But what did I do? What did I violate?
Lo yachal dvaro, because
it wasn't yachel. It never took
will.
effect. No. Anyway, Tosfos makes that point. And I think that's very important to raise that question. It does a neder on all food take effect or not? We could see arguments yes or no. And B, if it doesn't, is there a concept of neder shav?
So you say that there's no problem if it doesn't take effect to make that kind of a neder?
It's possibly correct.
But I still don't understand. At some point, you're going to have to eat, in which case then your word will be profaned.
No, it never took effect. It never took
the
effect.
reason it didn't take effect because it can't happen.
Right.
So in which case then it's a lo yachal dvaro. You know what I'm saying?
No, lo yachal dvaro is when it takes effect and then you violate it. That would be this answer. Okay? So the Gemara says, I'll try to show you the line in Tosfos.
But why can't we also take?
No, he just says nidre shav lo matzino. He doesn't give an explanation why not. But I think the explanation is what I said, that it gets to the difference of whether you're implicitly invoking God's name.
So what you're saying is that even a Shevuot, if you didn't invoke God's name, then this doesn't apply?
So that's an interesting question. Yes, the assumption is yes, that the Isser Shevuot shav applies even without God's name being invoked, but that would be because somehow it's implicit. Okay,
you're saying I swear you really mean I swear by God. Like
yes,
not?
Exactly. That's the general question. Does every Shevuah implicitly mean as God is my witness? Okay, is that what the mode of a Shevuah means?
The other question to really think about here is, when we take a Shevuah that, I saw like the snake as big as whatever, like how much do we contextualize this? He means I saw a really big snake. You know what I mean? Isn't that like maybe? Why can't we say that that's what he's trying to say?
Okay, so we'll get to that in the Gemara. Fine, calm down. We'll get to it in the Gemara. Okay, all right. So now let's take a look as the Gemara continues. I'm going to try to quote you the Rambam about this issue. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. Okay, so the Gemara says, Amalei Ravina Rav Ashi. So Ravina said to Rav Ashi, the Dioma Hai Gavrit Sipur Rav Akazi. Maybe, how do you know this is a false oath? Like it's a shav. Let's say it's a simple case. Rabbi says he took an oath that he saw such a flying camel. And we say that's patently false, and therefore it's a shav. Okay, let's just go with that explanation. So he says, how do you know it's patently false? Maybe the guy saw a big bird flying.
So big bird.
Okay, big right. The Asik Leshma Gamla. He said, that bird is so huge, I'm going to call that a camel. And then he said, I saw camel flying. He meant my pet bird, who I nicknamed Camel. Okay? So, and therefore, when he's taking an oath, he's taking an oath in his own, based on his own, the own meaning that he gives to those words. Okay, so this gets to an important question, right? We've discussed all along that a Shevuot and neder has to be pivali boshavin. It goes by what you're thinking. And what you're thinking, sometimes Tosfos even discussed, can you ask the guy to clarify what he meant? Okay, and what you are. And if you're not in sync between what you said and what you mean, it doesn't take effect. How much would we go by its meaning, that by what you're thinking, and we say and give it a meaning that contradicts the normal meaning that people would give to these words. That's different than contextualizing and clarifying. That's giving it a bizarre meaning, okay? So maybe we should say that that's what you meant, and therefore it wouldn't be a shvuas shav, okay? And I didn't cover what?
We're dealing with language here.
Right.
Somebody's making his own
private language, right?
You know, that's
right.
kind of like
right.
It's outside the frame.
Right, but this is at least a little bit like if you explain to them, oh no, my pet parakeet's name is Camel, you know, so then he didn't really violate the rules of the language, right? It's just that everybody, you know, but nevertheless, yes, that's exactly the question. And if you say no, he's not allowed to say those things. We go by his lips and not by his mind. Okay, we go by what he said, not by what he was thinking. Okay, and yes, can his thinking sometimes contextualize and clarify? Maybe, but it can't give a meaning that is clearly against the standard meaning that, you know, any normal meaning people would give this. So that would be a reasonable thing to say. So now the Gemara is going to get into that question. Can you go by somebody's intent even in ways that it contradicts what they said when it comes to Neder and Shevuot? Okay? V'hatanya, but we taught in the Brisa. Kishemashbino so omimlo. This is when they give somebody an oath in Beis Din, and they say to the person, like we say, you know, Michael, take an oath that, you know, you say you don't owe Charlie $100. Take an oath that you don't owe Charlie $100. Okay, and and we say, Michael, we don't want any tricks. We don't want you to assign your own personal meaning to those words. So when we're making you take this oath, it's not what you think these words mean. It's what we say these words mean. Okay, Kishemashbino so omimo heavy yodea shelo datcha anu mashbinotcha. Not what you want to think, claim those words are going to mean when they come out of your mouth. El al datenu on our das, al das Beis Din, and the das of Beis Din. I mean, they are Beis Din, but whatever. We'll worry about that. Okay, al das hamakon, the al das Beis Din is another version of it. Exactly, that's where we get it from. Okay, so my timer, why is it that we do that? Lav mishum daminan dioma, because we're afraid that he's giving a private meaning to those words. Dioma iskundari yahivle. Maybe Michael gave Charlie 100 little slips of paper. I think is what Rashi says. Iskundari are, you know, little like wood chips. Okay, he dumped off a bag of, like, I don't know, paper clips by Charlie before the court case. Vasiklu zuze, and he said, oh yeah, I have a nickname for those paper clips. I call each paper clip $1. So then when I come to court, I'm going to swear that I gave Charlie $100. Okay? We're afraid of that. So the fact that we're afraid of that and we have to preempt it by saying it's going to be the meaning we give it shows that if we don't preempt it, you're entitled to give it your own private meaning. Okay? Is that not evidence? The fact that we need to do this, that otherwise you are entitled to give it your private meaning? 1 minute, Charlie. Lo. No. There it's possible that it's not a private meaning, but it's a trick meaning. What's the trick meaning? It was the story with Rava. Okay, what was the story with Rava? So the case came in for Rava. We'll do it again with Michael and Charlie. Michael owed Charlie $100, which he was denying. So what Michael did was he took his walking stick, okay, and he carved out a hole in it, and he put $100 in it, okay, screwed the top back on, and then he got up to make a shvuah, and he said to Charlie, here, Charlie, hold my stick for me for a minute, and then he took an oath that he gave Charlie $100. So there actually, he's not giving a private meaning to the words. He actually did give Charlie $100, but in circumstances which are clearly different than anything we obviously are referring to. So you would have to say, do it on our das, not because you could have a private meaning to the words. You'll make the words mean something else, but that the context might be such, like Anochi Esav B'chorecha, whatever, you know, you'll do something, whatever, the context will be such that it's not at all what we're talking about. Okay, so that's why you have to do it. All of this, of course, makes me think about Bill Clinton, right? You know, what is it? What does
the meaning? What is
meaning of is? Yeah, what is the meaning of is? Like, you know,
or Mary McCarthy saying about Lily Hellman, everything she writes is a lie, including the words and the.
Okay, so Tashma, come in here. We have found that when Moshe made Bnei Israel take an oath, right there, like Arvos Moav, right? Lo itchem levatchem, not you alone am I taking this oath, you know, but everybody who's not here. Amarlen, he said, when I'm making you take this oath to fulfill the Torah, it's not just what you want to think it means. Ella al das hamakom val dati. That's like das hamakom das God. What God says it means, what I say it means. So don't make any tricks that you're trying to give different meanings to these words. Now, I just want to pause for a moment. Tosfos asks a great question. Tosfos says, what good is a Shevuot going to do? You're already obligated, so if you don't feel bound by mitzvos, why are you going to feel bound by your Shevuot? Okay, if you look at Tosfos, Kishishbia Moshe at Yisrael, Tosfos says, Ksas Kosha. Maisamo Elis Hashua, Moshe Yare Sheyavdu Avodas Kochavim, Kamokin Lira Pen Yavru Hashua. I don't understand, said Tosfos. If somebody is not going to fulfill the mitzvahs that God said, what's going to make them fulfill it more because they took an oath?
Because they want to keep their word.
Right. So obviously, the psychological answer is it's very different when it's something imposed on you by others, and if you actually obligate yourself, like your integrity is on the line, right? It's not just are you living up to some obligation somebody put to you. You are standing by your word. It gets to like a core of who you are, and your integrity is on the line. It's not just the ownish of a Shevuah. Actually, what's his name? The Pachad Yitzchak. Yitzchak Hutner makes this point about Maimon Har Sinai itself. And he says, Moshe goes to Bnei Israel and says, okay, God's going to give you these mitzvahs. Are you going to give them? And they say yes, right? And like the Medrash is even like, God hangs the mountain over them, will you accept this? And they say yes. He says, why do they have to say yes? What does that do for them? Like that's even before any mitzvahs were given. So there would have been no Aveira, and if they obligated themselves, there would not even have been an Aveira involved in not living up to their self-obligation, because they had not yet, because they weren't yet living in a world of mitzvot. Okay, so he says, so what is the idea? He actually makes a bigger philosophical point. Like this is a general question, which is like, do all ethics only proceed from God? Or, is there a sense of independent ethics? And his point really is that there has to be some sense of independent ethics, because if it was all just proceeding from God, well, then like, why does it make sense to obligate myself to accept the mitzvahs from God if everything just comes from God? It's the same as God commanding it. Anyway, so he basically sort of uses that as an interesting evidence to the power of a sense of an ethical obligation, even independent of the divine command, and how that, becomes the framework for binding yourself to what God had said. So that's actually quite fascinating in terms of thinking about the power of the Shevuah, independent, or your own commitment or promise or word, independent of any mitzvah or avera or divine ethical context. Okay, so anyway, it says, now, why did he have to say that? The only reason he would have to say that is he's afraid that people will give private meanings to the words. He could just say, fulfill everything God has said. And he doesn't have to say what other meaning could they give unless they're giving private meaning to the words. But without private meaning, why does he have to say, oh, it's based on what I say it means? Okay. Lav mishum dekamasika dataya avodas kochavim. Isn't it because that they will say Eloha means the idolatrous gods? Okay, and they'll give that private meaning to the word. So the Gemara says, yes, it is. That's the problem. But it says not because it's a private meaning. That actually, that is a meaning of the word Eloha. Word of the meaning of the word God is lowercase g God, not capital G God. Okay, I know there's so many examples, Elohim Achirim and so on. Maybe it means that, I don't, anyway. So the point is, the problem there is not a private meaning of the word. Moshe would say something and they would say, oh, you're referring to an idolatrous God. You're not referring to our God. That's how they would get out of it. Okay, which is not a private meaning. Okay, Tosfos says, why didn't they just use the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei? Tosfos raises the possibility that maybe even that name could be assigned to might be, a name used by some other god, which is fascinating. Anyway, I know. You can look at the Tosfos. The Leimalu Kimu Torah. So fine, forget God. Let's say they say, accept the Torah. Okay, so what would he be afraid of unless it would be some private meaning? Let's say, no, Torah is ambiguous, even in terms of its accepted meaning. Chada Torah, it means one Torah. So they wouldn't have to do Shabbat Torah, Shabbat Peh. Torah, fulfill both Torah.
Yeah, both.
Torah Chatas, Torah Asham. There's a lot of things that are called Torah. Again, not a private meaning, just not what you were thinking, not the meaning you were thinking. Okay? Kol Torah Kula. Well, let's say keep the entire Torah. So what other meaning could they give it unless a private one? No. Here's a good meaning that they could give that would be a recognized meaning. Avodas kochavim. It just means don't do avodah zara. Keep the whole Torah means keep the essence of the Torah.
What keep everything?
The Amar Ma. Okay, the Amar will get there. Chamur avodas kochavim shekol kofer b'kamada b'chol Torah kula. That if you reject avodah zara, it's like you fulfilled the whole Torah. So that's an acceptable meaning of what you said, not a private meaning. Lema, why not say to them, Lahu, Kimu mitzvah, fulfill the mitzvah. Oh, it's a funny Havamina, just to get to the next answer. Chada mitzvah, fine, one mitzvah, that I can do. Kimu mitzvot, do the mitzvot. Tarti, fine, I'll do 2. Okay, Kimu kol mitzvot kulan, fulfill all the mitzvot. All right, so tzitzis, fine. That means tzitzis, and that's not a private meaning. That's an acceptable interpretation of the words fulfill all the mitzvot, right? Damarmar, shkul, fine. Shkula mitzvah tzitzis, connect kol mitzvahs kulan. Mitzvah tzitzis, reminds you of all the mitzvot. Rashi does a gematria where it gets close to taryag, plus the strings, plus the knots, fine. But leimalahu, kimu sheishmot mitzvot, do all 613 mitzvot. So what other meaning could they give to that? That's a legitimate, accepted meaning. So the Gemara says, fine, you got me there. If it weren't for private meanings, maybe they couldn't. But that doesn't prove the concern is private meanings. How do I know that doesn't prove it? That the concern is a private meaning. According to you, okay? Leimalahu al dati, al das makam lamali. So why does he say on God's intent? Why doesn't he just say on my meaning? So clearly there's more going on here than the possibility of excluding private meanings.
Well, I think it's
okay.
because...
Ella, let's do kihechi to have a hafara l'shvuasayu. When you say al dativ al das hamakom, that really has nothing to do with excluding private meanings. This proves nothing about the private meanings.
So maybe our concern for private meanings?
Meaning, well, the Gemara's claim is that we're not. The argument was that we were, and they were trying to prove it from the need to say al da'ati. And the answer is no. I'm going to continue to claim that we're not concerned for private meanings, okay? And that's why I'm not concerned that your pet parrot is called Camel. We're not concerned for private meanings. And the reason Moshe did this and said al das hamakom al das kahal was so that they couldn't go to some chacham and get a hatara. Because saying on my das doesn't just mean on the meaning I give the words, but it also means that you are the Hatara process works because you said it wasn't my intent in these circumstances to have taken the Shevuot. But what I'm saying is it's not just your intent, buddy, it's my intent as well. So even if we completely agree what the words mean, right, the bindingness of the Shevuot is not just bound on your intent to fulfill it, or then you could go to a Hataras Nedarim and say in these circumstances I wouldn't have done it. It's bound on to the degree that I want you to fulfill it. And I want you to fulfill it regardless of circumstances and so on. Okay, so that's what it does. It operates in a very different way, not about the meaning, but about the bindingness. And therefore, bottom line is we're not concerned about private meanings of words. Now, Tosfos makes an interesting point because this phrase, right, like as we know that we do on Yom Kippur, al das hamakom al das kahal, was actually a classic phrase that they did when they would make, a classic way in the Middle Ages that they would make rules for the community and then get people to live by them was to basically impose a shvuah on the whole community or a cherem. And they would say al das hamakom al das kahal and so on. But sometimes they would have a need to revoke it or to make a waiver. So take a look at Tosfos. So okay, now it sounds like al das rabim, on our das and God's das. It sounds like that you can't annul it. First he says, first of all, the discussion of Moshe and God, it doesn't mean the definition of Rabim is 2. Okay, that's not just why we're saying Moshe and God. The deal Madas Kodesh Baruch Hu Shani. Yeah, God counts for more than just one vote. Okay, so anyway, so we don't know how many people you need to make something constitute.
He holds a majority share.
Right. You don't know how many people you need to constitute a Das Rabim. Okay, the In Tomer, Ba'osan Charamot, Shanu Gozrim, Al Das Kodesh Baruch Hu V'Das Kahal. We say Cherem. Like think of Chaim Rabbeinu Gershom, right? On the das of God and on the das of the community. The community is the das Rabim. Okay, it's not right. So it's al das Rabim, so you can't annul it. Okay, so now Tosa says, Hey Yeshlan Heter. How do we, sometimes we actually do waive it. We revoke it after a period of time or whatever we do. How do we do that? It's supposed to be maybe for a particular person under extenuating circumstances, right? So, there's interesting cases. One example comes to mind, for example, that you wouldn't know of, like Chaim Rabbeinu Gershom. They made it, the Gaoni made it to Kana. People would horrors of horrors, sometimes get married for love against the will of the parents of the bride and the groom. Or sometimes somebody would marry a girl, like an unsuspecting young woman, and then extort the parents for like a lot of money to divorce her and whatever. So they made a takana that nobody is allowed to do kiddushin not the nisuin, not the chuppah, kiddushin, without 10 people there and the rabbi there or whatever it was, the parents there and so on. Okay, but let's say you had, I don't know, some extenuating circumstance. Somebody was in jail, right? You couldn't get 10 people present or whatever, right? So they would make a waiver. But how can you make a waiver? It's al das rabim, al das hakahal, and ein lo haTorah. So Tosa says, hey, heter. Greater, forget even God in this equation. Even if you said al das kahal, havi al das rabin, that would be al das rabin. Va'od hechi mishtari below charata. And anyway, how do we waive it if there's no process of charata? Okay, it's just we, the kahal, are deciding that this case deserves a waiver. But if we're imposing it on you, okay, but maybe not a mitzvah case. If we're imposing it on you, don't you need to go through a process of asking a chacham and so on? So he says, v'yesh lomer. The das hakahal kachu. This is exactly what the das hakahal is. It prevents you on your own from going and doing a hatara, and it gives us, the kahal, or the rabbis who are the representatives of the hal, the complete discretion. It's our das to determine whether it should be.
So that's what they based in Matin.
Okay,
before,
right.
Pretty much.
Okay, so that's basically the way it works now. But it means even the kahal doesn't have to do charata. It's not like the beis din representing the kahal has to go to another beis din and say, had we known in this case, we wouldn't have imposed it on Michael, who's in jail and needs a spec. No, you don't need to go through the process at all. It's our das, and our das basically means, A, you don't get to decide to go to a chacham, and B, we have total discretion whether to waive it or not. So it's very interesting in terms of the mechanism. So now he says, why are we mentioning God? Okay, since ultimately it's our das that matters here. So he says, we say das hamako, we add God to the equation. Yeah, that's just because it makes it sound weightier. The low dummy Moshe when Moshe called God, invoked God, that was because God told him.
God really did tell him.
Okay, we say God, but it's really all about us, what we decide. Okay,
it's true.
So
I
know.
Actually commanded Moshe to tell
exactly. Okay. So I thought that was fascinating in terms of its practical. Okay, and it's whatever, historical. Okay, so it says, if I haven't seen a snake like the size of a beam of an olive press. The low, is that not possible? Wasn't there a snake at the time of Shver Malka? One snake actually swallowed up 12 like troughs of grain of what's Tevin straw. Okay,
reminds me of those big. You hear about this in India, like people get swallowed by these big snakes.
Exactly. So Amar Shmuel b'taruf. It's referring to a snake. It doesn't just mean it's as big as the beam. It means that it's like notched, like it's got spots or stripes on it, like this beam does. That's how beams would have notches in them. So the Gemara says, "Kulu nami mitruf trifanon." All snakes. So what? Snakes have stripes on them or spots. B'shegabutos. No, the back of it is striped, and that apparently, I don't know, doesn't happen with snakes. Basically. All right. Anyway, shvu she'ochel kikar zo shvu she'ochlena. So now the Mishnah says, if you take a shvuah to eat and then not to eat, it sounds like you have to make a choice. You're going to violate one of them. Are you going to eat it? Then you violated the not eat. Are you going to not eat? You violated the eat. But it sounds like, right, it's one or the other. But the Gemara's got a problem, which is Michael's problem, which is as soon as you took the second shvuah that you won't eat it, that already was a shvuah shav. That was never a binding. Okay, so if you don't eat it, right, you don't not violate that shvuah. That shvuah was a shvuah shav the minute it left your lips. Okay, which is what the Gemara says. So I don't get it, says the Gemara. If you went ahead and you didn't eat it, which was your second shvuah, so you only transgressed your first one. You didn't transgress your the shvuah shav. When you said it was l'shav because it was levatelas hamitzvah. So I'm Rabbi Yirmiyah Tani af al shvuas b'toy. Fine, you're right. You're always violated shvuas shav. And if you went ahead and you fulfilled the shvuas shav, you still violated the shvuas shav, and you also violated the shvuas b'toy. But not like the Mishnah sounds. It's not like you have a choice. Okay, you always did the shvuas shav, and we'll see whether you're going to do violate the shvuas b'toy. Okay, so now we wrap up. So I thought this whole daf would go quickly. We're having too much fun. Okay, but before we read this, let me just see if I can quickly quote for you the Rambam here about this issue. Hold on. About what we're talking about. Here, right what Rambam said. Shvuas shav nechla kol arba machalokot. Doesn't mean divisions, not debates. Ha'achas shenishba al davar yadua she'ein kain. Okay. Hashniya shenishba al davar yadua she'ein bo safek ladam shehu kain. Okay. So there you go. So that's reaffirming something that is obvious. So that wasn't in our Mishnah, but I mentioned that to you. Okay. Okay. Shlishit shenishba levatel es hamitzvah. Okay, like he takes an oath that he won't sleep, or etc. So interesting, what is absent from Rambam is, so you do have something that's patently true, but you don't have a redundant shvuah, right? If you take a shvuah, I won't shochlena, or a shvuah not to eat chazer, or whatever, even though ain't shvuah, that is not a shvuah shav, which is interesting. Okay. Now the question about whether Shem Hashem is implicated in this, I'm trying to remember. That is, I should have checked this up, but let me just quickly see. Oh, here we go. Rambam says like this: Echad hanishpa o shishbu acher b'shem hamyuchad. Oh, be'echad mina kinuyim, going to nishba misha shmo chanun and misha shmo rachum, or misha shmo erchapayim l'chiyoteben, b'chol lashon harezu shvua gemurah. If you use God's name, it's a full shvua. Okay, v'chein Allah arur, etc. Okay, if you use God's name. Okay, da 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 da. V'chein omer shvua behashem, or misha shmo shelo ochel, etc. Fine. Let's say you took a shvuah without mentioning God's name. Okay, hareza aser b'davar shenishba lav. Havol eino loke the lo mevi korvan im amal shvaso achi b'shem min hashemot okinu min hakinuyim. So Rambam says all of the things we've been discussing, okay, with a korban or malchus, etc. All of that is only when God's name is explicit. So there's an interesting question. Does Rambam mean to say without God's name it's only rabbinic? Or does he mean to say it's biblical, but because it lacks that element of violating God's name or taking God's name in vain, it's not weighty enough. It's like a chatzi shir. It's not weighty enough to bring a korban or to.
I was trying to say it's like a lo yachal dvaro kind of thing.
Maybe, but you get lashes for lo yachal dvaro also, so it's not that, right? So that really shows about how central the idea of God's name is to Shvuah.
A very large snake with a flat back and spots. It's an anaconda.
Okay, let's take a look.
They wouldn't have known it.
Wrapping this up. Shavuos bitoy. Okay, now the Shavuos bitoy, which is again the simple example, is future oriented. Okay, noheges, and you would bring the korban b'shogeg. Noheges ba'anashim u'benashim, whether men or women, bekrovim b'rechokim, relatives or not relatives. Now, what's a relative? Like, so that's really coming to contrast it to the idea of the next parak, which is a lead into the next parak, which is a shvuah of testimony. Right. So if I ask somebody who's a woman to testify, it's not a binding shvuah edus. She's not an acceptable witness. If I ask somebody,
so if she does, then
if she takes a
shvuah shav.
Yeah, it might be shvuah shav, but it's certainly not shvuah edus. If I ask her to, if I ask a relative a shvuah to testify, it's also not binding because a relative can't testify for me. Okay, so that's why we're contrasting to that. But relative is like a little meaningless in this context. Rashi says an example of relatives is I take a shvuah that I'll give my brother $10, or I take a shvuah that I'll give a stranger $10. That's krovim and rechokim. Okay, b'kshem b'psulim. Whether the person taking the shvuah is kosher to give testimony, or even if he's like a ganav, or somebody who's puzzled to give testimony. Okay, bifnei beisim shelo bifnei beisim, whether it took place in the presence of the course or not. Right? Again, all of this might be relevant for shvuas ha'edus, but not for a normal shvuas bitoy. Mipi atzmo, only though if you did it yourself, not implicitly not imposed by others. Although we'll get to the case in the Gemara about imposed by others. V'chayavinos donam makos v'ashi gasa korban olaviorei. Again, which we've said before, if you willingly violate it, you get lashes. If you unintentionally violate it, you bring the korban of variable cost. Shvuas shav, now a shvuas shav. No heges ba'anashimu b'nashim, men, women, berchokim, berkrovim, relatives and not relatives, b'kshem, b'psulim, whether you're kosher to testify or not, b'fnei basin, b'shelo basin, and piatzmo, by basin and not by basin, in presence of basin, and only again if you said it yourself. Now, the chayavin al's dona makos, v'al gasa pater, and you get makos for doing it willfully, but unintentionally there's no korban, it's a shvuas shav. Interesting, he didn't mention shvuas sheker, which he could have sort of said the same thing. Now we've discussed by you said it by yourself. How about if it was imposed on you by others? Okay, meaning somebody said mashbiach ani, I impose a shvua on you, and you said amen. You said yes. Okay, now you could say if the whole problem is lo tisat shem Hashem Elokecha l'shav or lo tishbu b'shmi l'shaker, so if you didn't actually say it yourself, maybe you're not violating. So it says, so we the case hamush became chayav. You are chayav, even though a minute ago we just said it has to be on your by yourself. So which is it? Does it have to be you say it yourself or even by others? So the Gemara is going to deal with the different implications of the beginning and the end of the Mishnah. Now, somebody says, Lo achalti hayom v'lo hinachti tefillin. I didn't eat today. I didn't put on tefillin. Mashbiacha ani. And here's an example of somebody making you swear. I impose an oath on you about that. Amar amen. Yes, I accept that. Chayav. Okay, so mushba mipi hakayim is chayav. So why did we say initially that you have to be mushba mipi atzmo? So let's take a look at the Gemara. Amar Shmuel, says Shmuel, Kola ona amen achar shvua k'motzi shvua mipiv dami. Here's he's going to answer it. Yes, you do have to say it yourself. But the words amen, since words came out of your mouth, wrapped up into that word amen, if we were to use a monitor and unpack the word amen, packed up into that word is everything the other guy said. Okay? So therefore, it's like you yourself said the shvua. Which is exactly responding to an oath imposed by somebody else. It's like he said herself. This is also inferred from our Mishnah Brisa. The Mishnah coming up tomorrow. The exact contrast to ours. Only men, not women. Only non-relatives, not relatives. Only people that are kosher to testify. Only somebody that's fit to testify. And in the presence of the court. Now, what about not in the presence of the court? Okay. Now, if it's, I'm sorry, if you did it yourself, even not in the presence of the court. Okay. But if somebody imposed it on you, you have to have based in. It's like it's only in the presence of the court. Okay. So Shvuas Eidos, if it's imposed by others, only if it's done by the court. Divrei Rabbi Meir, or in the presence of the court. That's what Rabbi Meir says. V'tanya b'braita, fine. So according to Rabbi Meir, you need it in the presence of the court, imposed by others. Shvuas ha'edus. But a braita teaches Shvuas ha'edus keitzad. Amar la'edim bo v'heiduni, come testify for me. Shur she'ein ani yodim l'cha edus. Nah, we don't know any testimony. O she'amru ein ani yodim l'cha edus. O she'amru ein ani yodim l'cha edus. Or they didn't say a shvua. They just said we don't know any testimony. Mashbi ani aleichem. I make you, I impose an oath on you to that effect. But Amru Amen, and they said Amen. Bein bifnei beisin, bein shelo bifnei beisin, whether it's in the presence of the court or not, bein mipiatzmo bein pirchem, and whether they did it themselves, they said we take a shvua, or you said take a shvua, and they said Amen. Kivan shekafru behem chayavim, if they basically rejected their knowledge of it, they're chayav. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's what Meir says. Now we got a problem. In the first case, Rabbi Meir said, only if you're imposed by others, only in the presence of a court. This case says, even if it's imposed by others, you're chayav, right? You see how we read the same Rabbi Meir saying, even imposed by others, you're chayav, even not in the presence of a court. So how do you reconcile it? Kashin hadadi, alav shmamina, hada ana amen, hada lo ana amen, shmamina. The case he says where it's not in the presence of the court, that somebody imposed it on you, he explicitly describes it that they said amen. Okay, so the basic point is amen is not mushba mipi acherim. Somebody else initiated it, but when the words amen came out of your mouth, we define that effectively as mushba mipi atzmo. You said it yourself. So when Rabbi Meir says imposed by somebody else has to be in the presence of a court, that means if you don't say amen, okay. But if you,
so meaning Beit Din holds you to court, and you know we're making you swear. You don't say anything.
You don't say anything.
It's effective anyway.
It's effective anyway, which is a chiddush. Like that, yeah. You know, you would think you need some acquiescence, okay? But anyway, so that's itself a chiddush which we're worried about. But when you say amen, that's like you said it yourself, and therefore that works even outside of a court. And that's how to reconcile Rabbi Meir. Similarly, that's also the implication of our Mishnah. The Katani Shvua between Nohegas Banashim, Banashim, Berchogim, Bekom, Bekshem, Psum, Bifnei Beisin, Bishalo Bifnei Beisin, Bipiatzmo. It said a Shvua between is only if you say it yourself. So the implication is Mipi atzmo in, mipi acherem lo. That was clearly the implication of the beginning of the Mishnah, that you had to say it yourself. Viktani safe, and the end of it says, zev zeh mushman piachem chayev. That if you're imposed by others, you're chayev. So make up your mind. First you said you have to do it yourself, then you said by others. Kashan hadadi, it's contradictory. Obviously, the answer is that in the case in the end, when it says if somebody imposes it, you're chayav, it's only if you say amen, which is the example the Mishnah gives, right? The Mishnah gives the example that somebody said amen, right? The Mishnah says, v'amar amen chayav. So the point of the Mishnah is that saying amen constitutes saying it yourself. So if it's so obvious from the Mishnah and from the whatever, what's Shmuel teaching us? He's teaching us how to closely read the Mishnah, that this halacha is present if you pay attention to a close reading of the Mishnah. I should say that Rambam actually uses this in a different area, in Hilchos Brachos. Rambam says the following. Everybody always hear that if you're silent and listening to a bracha, you're yotzei, shomer ke'oneh. Listening is like you said it. Mm-hmm. So what is, first of all, the phrase ke'oneh mean? Why isn't it shomer ke'omer? Listening to a bracha is like you said it. What does it mean like you responded? So Rambam creates two levels. He says, Kol ha'oneh amen k'motzi bracha mipiv dami. If I make a bracha, you say amen, that amen is a short version of, like you said, all those words that I just said. Okay, so that's kimotzi bracha mipiv dami. It's like you actually said it. If you hear and don't respond, the word oneh for Rambam means it's not like you said it. It's like you said amen. So the amen is like you said it. Listening is like you said amen. It's it's 2 degrees removed.
But A implies B, so B implies C, and A implies C.
I know, but according to the Rambam, and the question is, what's the halachic difference between kimotzi bracha mipiv dami or not? But it's a really nice read of the word ke'oneh, and it creates this level. You could be yotzei the bracha without saying it's like you said it, and you could actually say the word amen, and that's like you actually said the bracha. Okay, so very nice sort of gradation there, according to Rambam, which he obviously gets from this Gemara.
You say if you don't respond